So we'll continue with our discussion on motivation. As you might already have an idea, out of a total of 7 theories, we are already done with the first 5, and that would be Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Herzberg's hygiene theory, Vroom's expectancy theory, and of course, this was followed by McClelland's needs theory, and the last one that I discussed in the previous lecture, it was the Hawthorne effect by Mayo, right? So we'll continue with the discussion, and this particular session we should be able to, wind this up, the entire topic of motivation, which happens to be an extremely important one too. So the next one on the list, that would be Taylor's scientific management theory. Frederick Taylor, a renowned social scientist, who is known to be the greatest advocate of financial rewards, right? So any question referring to financial rewards, the answer, the discussion, the explanation would be incomplete if you don't refer to what Taylor discussed or what Taylor highlighted or how he attached a lot of importance to financial rewards. So he is the greatest advocate of financial rewards, monetary incentives, and he firmly believes that the only driving force in this world for a worker, for an individual, is money. In fact, he coined a term in this context. He created a term, it's called the economic man. The economic man. So according to Taylor, we are all economic men, or maybe a typical worker, a typical employee, or a typical individual for that matter, is an economic man, which basically underlines the importance of financial incentives, right? According to him, like I just mentioned, the only driving force in this world is money. And all the other non-financial factors that we've been discussing so far, or the ones that were put forward by the other social scientists, according to him, the impact is almost negligible, right? So as per syllabus, we are required to, or the candidates are required to discuss at least four payment schemes that are influenced by the ideas of Taylor. 4 payment schemes that revolve around financial rewards and which support the idea or which support the theory that was formulated by Taylor. So we'll go through multiple payment schemes one by one with reference to Taylor's scientific management theory, because he just firmly believes that you have to offer the right kind of financial reward or monetary incentive to your worker in order to raise his motivation level or in order to make him work at his optimum level. So one such payment scheme is the piece rates. Piece rates in this payment scheme, the workers, they're paid in accordance with the level of output. The payment is made, it's a per unit payment, and the worker, whatever he receives in monetary terms, it entirely depends on the level of output or the level of production. So the more he produces, the more he earns. That's piece rates. So in many manufacturing businesses, we come across this scheme, and the main advantage obviously is that it encourages workers, it motivates them to work hard and raise the level of production. Because whatever they're going to make, whatever they're going to earn, it will largely or totally depend on the number of units produced. But the other side is, the limitation is, and I've been mentioning this, that most of the questions these days, those are evaluation based questions. So as you highlight the plus points, it is important not to ignore the risk factor or the limitations associated with the particular concept. So in piece rates, the main limitation is that it is often observed that quality is compromised for quantity. Quality is compromised for quantity, and it makes a lot of sense also, because obviously the worker, he'll be desperate to produce more, and in that desperation or in that haste, there's a high probability that he is unable to pay proper attention to quality standards, right? This should also be remembered and mentioned. So the second payment scheme, which is relevant here to Taylor's scientific management theory, which revolves around financial rewards, is time rates. Another very popularly followed payment scheme in different parts of the world. In time rates, the worker is paid on an hourly basis, right? So, for instance, they determine a wage rate that you'll be paid $10 an hour or $12 an hour, so on and so forth. So this is, again, a good motivator. It's a good financial reward. It would encourage workers to spend more time at the workplace because it's a time rates payment scheme. But the other side of the limitation is the time might be wasted also. The time that is spent at the workplace, it has to be productive. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense if he spends, 18 hours a day at the workplace and he's not productive enough, he's wasting time. So what's the use? So basically, referring to both of these, the piece rate system and the time rate system, these can prove to be quite useful and beneficial in motivating the workers, provided there's a system of checks and balances. If there's proper supervision there, that would basically guarantee the desired results, right? So another payment scheme that I think deserves some attention is commission. We all have an idea what the term commission means. Commission is basically a percentage of sales. It's a percentage of sales. So very commonly observed in professions that involves, salesmen who have to convince the potential customers to purchase a particular product. So commission is a percentage of sales. So whatever he sells, a salesman, a certain percentage of the monetary value, it goes to the salesman. Again, it's an effective motivator because it will encourage them to work hard and sell more. But the other side is, or the limitation is, that usually in these sales-oriented jobs, there's a high degree of overcommitment. That's like a drawback. That's like a limitation because these salesmen, they have to meet targets, and while doing that, they might exaggerate the merits of the product. They might overcommit. There might be some tall claims or false claims that they are unable to keep or fulfill. So this has to be kept in mind because maybe in the short run, if a salesman exaggerates the merits of the product, he overcommits, he misrepresents the facts, he might be able to sell the product. But obviously this would be disastrous for the image of the organization and the brand name and the customer. It is unlikely that he would buy that product again. So that would be commission. Then you should add bonus to the list also, another financial incentive, bonus. Bonus basically is an additional payment made to a high achiever. It's an additional payment that is made to a high achiever. When we say an additional payment, it is in addition to the salary, the regular salary that he receives. It is for the high achievers, so if you accomplish a task, if you meet a target, if you achieve a certain objective, you qualify for a bonus. And again, this will be a great motivator, for people who want to go that extra mile and they want to do something extraordinary or exceptional. So they'll be rewarded for this hard work or for this extra effort that they make in the shape of a bonus. Bonuses can be quite useful in this regard, but it is important for the managers to ensure that the decision is taken on merit. Because if it is influenced by personal liking or disliking or this nepotism or something, then obviously it will demotivate the genuine high achievers, right? So if you can refer to these 4 payment schemes, I think that should serve the purpose that you're required to highlight the importance of financial rewards, because we're discussing Taylor's scientific management theory, because what he has been describing regarding these financial rewards is that if the right kind of financial reward is offered to a worker, that should be good enough for him to be to maintain the required productivity level and produce the desired results, even if the non-financial rewards are non-existent. And just to quote a few more examples of payment schemes that are being practiced, there could be a PRP system, performance related pay. The manager can observe the performance of the workers and then decide and determine the amount of money that he's supposed to get or receive. And then, there could be profit sharing. There are certain companies, they offer a certain percentage of profit to their workers, profit sharing. That would also be a good motivator. Profit sharing is there. Then, of course, there's something that we call fee. Most of the specialists that are providing services, they have an expertise in a particular, area or field. They charge the customer for their service, like, and that's the fee that they charge. We see this in case of all kinds of specialists, doctors, lawyers, architects. They charge a fee for their services. Then you can even discuss or mention salary, which is obviously a fixed amount. It adds a touch of certainty. It helps people in planning ahead because it's a fixed amount. So if you're getting a handsome salary, that could also be a good motivator, right? So by referring to different payment schemes, you can easily highlight the salient features or the main points that were described by Taylor in a scientific management theory, right? With this, we come to the last theory, which is by McGregor. That's called McGregor's Theory X and Y. McGregor's Theory X and Y. So, this would be our theory number 7. So McGregor, he points out that there are two types of managers. Okay, absolutely essential that we remember that McGregor doesn't say that there are two types of workers, right? McGregor says there are two types of managers, category X managers and category Y managers. So try not to commit this mistake. He's not talking about workers here. He's saying the two types of managers, two categories, category X managers and category Y managers. So, these X managers, you can say they're rather pessimistic in their approach, the X managers, because, they generally believe that a typical worker is lazy by nature, right? This is the first viewpoint, which was expressed by these category X managers who believe that a typical worker, generally speaking, is lazy by nature, and he doesn't want to make an effort, and he is working or he's performing his duty under compulsion only. He doesn't really enjoy his job. He's not looking for a sense of job satisfaction or a sense of achievement. No, that's not the case. He doesn't really like to work. He's lazy by nature, and he's there because he doesn't have a choice. He's working under compulsion. This is one school of thought, which is propagated by these the category X managers. So since if the workers, they're lazy by nature and they don't really want to make an effort, so in order to make them work, there has to be a threat of punishment. If you really want to make these workers work at the optimum level, there has to be a threat of punishment. If they're pressurized, if they're threatened, that would probably make them work and maintain the performance level that the managers want them to. Otherwise, if you let them control their way of working, you should not expect, an impressive performance. Why? Because they don't really want to work. They don't really want to make an effort. They're working, like I just said, under compulsion only. So that's one viewpoint, and you can say this is one extreme. So the other viewpoint, this is the opinion expressed by category Y managers, and and their viewpoints, they're poles apart. These category Y managers, they believe that workers, a typical worker, according to these category Y managers, a typical worker, he actually enjoys working. He's looking for job satisfaction and a sense of achievement. He's creative, he's innovative. So you can easily observe that these category Y managers, they are rather optimistic in their approach. Category Y managers, right? They believe that workers generally, they actually want to make an effort. They want to use their skills. They want to make a difference. They want to contribute towards the growth and success of the organization that they are associated with. So since they're already interested in working, since they're already keen on doing their best at the workplace and, like I said, making a difference, there's no need to threaten them. There's no need to pressurize them. right? Instead of a threat of punishment, there has to be, some sort of an incentive or reward that should be offered to these workers so that they are motivated even further and they try to actually perform at the optimum level. So instead of a threat of punishment, there has to be a reward, some sort of reward, a financial reward or a non-monetary incentive that will encourage these workers to produce even better, right? This is the viewpoint which was expressed by these category Y managers, and you can easily see they are poles apart in their, in the thought process. Category X managers, they are of the opinion that there has to be a threat of punishment, and category Y managers, they believe that, instead of a threat of punishment, there has to be a reward or an incentive offered to the workers in order to motivate them and produce the desired results. And if you really want to comment on this, you can easily say, okay, you can't just have a generalized approach. In a given situation, maybe the X approach works better. In another situation, in another set of conditions, possibly the Y approach is more effective. You can't have a generalized approach. So a good manager, he'll be able to assess the performance and the personality of his respective workers and then adopt a strategy accordingly, right? So that could be your final comment on this. And that's McGregor's theory X and Y. Now, we're done with all the theories, and a piece of advice in the end, when you're attempting this question, and this is a very commonly found question, and if there's an essay type question, you've discussed all these theories, keeping in mind the requirements and by referring to the question or the passage or the case study, when you're concluding the answer, it is strongly advisable that in the concluding paragraph, you are supposed to identify 4 objectives that are being pursued by the employers who offer these financial and non-financial rewards to their workers. So, when you are trying to wrap this up, concluding paragraph, it is very, very important. The way there has to be an introductory paragraph. Similarly, make sure in all these essay type questions, there is a concluding paragraph also in the end, right? It has to be brief, but there has to be something in the end. It could be a comment, it could be a piece of advice, it could be a verdict. You can take sides, it could be, a neutral comment, but there has to be 3-4 sentences, in the end, there has to be a concluding paragraph that is strongly recommended. So in this particular question, when you're attempting a question on motivation, in the concluding paragraph, you have to highlight the employer's objectives. Okay, why should an employer go through the hassle of motivating the workers and, using these financial rewards and non-financial rewards? What are they going to accomplish by doing all this? So just remember, there are 4 objectives that the employers wish to achieve by having a motivated workforce with the help of these financial and non-financial rewards. You should note these down. 1 is reduction in labor turnover. Number 1 is reduction in labor turnover. That if you have a motivated workforce, the employers, the organization, the firm, they'll be able to keep a check on the labor turnover. Obviously, if a worker is happy and motivated and he's satisfied, why would he leave? Why would he look for alternate options, alternate jobs? So reduction in labor turnover, that is a major objective. If you have a happy and motivated workforce, you'll be able to keep a check on rising labor turnover rates, which is a great plus point, because when a worker leaves the company, the employers, they have to go through the hassle again of, the entire procedure. We all have an idea about the recruitment procedure, advertising the job, and then of course those tests, those interviews, and then shortlisting them, and then hiring someone, and then there's an induction training program. So yes, they can avoid this crisis in which the labor turnover, rate begins to rise by motivating the workers. That's number 1. Number 2 is productivity. A motivated worker is a more productive worker. A motivated worker, obviously, he's a more productive worker. He takes his job seriously. He works with a high degree of, commitment. He's more enthusiastic about his job, about his work. So this would be another plus point. Employers' objectives. Number 2 would be increase in productivity. Number three is image and credibility. If a firm has a motivated workforce, they will enjoy, a better image, greater credibility in the eyes of the stakeholders, in the eyes of the community. If your workers are happy financially or non-financially, obviously it would enhance the image of the organization. This company, that they take care of their employees in financial terms or non-monetary terms. So yes, image, credibility, that always matters to an organization. So there'll be a marked improvement, in this regard, if you have a motivated workforce. And finally, you must mention that a motivated worker, a motivated employee, is easier to control. Always remember, a motivated worker is less rebellious. He acts upon your advice, he follows your instructions. He's less rebellious. He's easier to control because, he's happy there, he wants to continue, and he doesn't want to lose his job. So he will try to act the way the managers want him to. So in the end, when you are concluding the essay, it is very important that these four objectives, these are employers' objectives. This will be an excellent conclusion to such an essay type answer. Just mention these four: reduction in labor turnover, improvement in productivity, the image enhances, credibility improves, and of course, they are easier to control. So this has to be added in the end. This is strongly recommended. And just before we wrap this up, we more or less we've discussed everything that we were required to regarding motivation. But just to make sure that there is sufficient amount of clarity and there's no ambiguity left, just in case you are required to identify non-financial rewards only, you need to understand if you're required, if there's a question, short question or essay, whether it's with a case study or otherwise, whether it's P1, and they want you to identify or refer to non-financial rewards only. Just keep in mind that typically there are 4 rewards, or there are 4 specific incentives which are labeled as non-financial rewards. Non-financial rewards, obviously, these are non-monetary incentives in which there's no direct involvement of money. There could be an indirect involvement, but non-financial rewards or non-monetary incentives are the ones in which we don't have any direct involvement of money. So typically there are 4. Number 1, fringe benefits. We all know what those are. Fringe benefits are perks or facilities that are offered to the employees in addition to the salary. It could be in the shape of free accommodation, or some sort of conveyance is provided, transportation, or maybe paid leave could be a fringe benefit, medical facilities, so on and so forth, education for children. So fringe benefits, that's number 1. We're just trying to prepare a list of the typical non-financial rewards. So 1 is fringe benefits or perks. Number 2 is teamwork. Remember in the previous lecture when we discussed Mayo's Hawthorne effect, we discussed how important it is to encourage teamwork. In fact, Mayo was of the opinion that it's the greatest non-financial reward. So teamwork is a non-financial reward. So is training. If you have a well-trained workforce, as a result of this, the job will become more meaningful to these workers. They will understand it better, right? It's good for their professional growth. It's good for their career growth. So yes, training is another non-financial reward. And the last one is democratic leadership. If the managers, they adopt a democratic style of leadership, a participative style of management, even that is a non-financial reward. Because a democratic style of leadership basically, it demands that workers, they are encouraged to take part or to participate in the decision-making process. Powers are delegated to them. There's a sense of belonging, and they feel that they are actually making a contribution towards the success of the organization. So democratic leadership. So just remember, in case you are required to discuss non-financial rewards only, try to focus on these 4, right? Fringe benefits, teamwork, training, and democratic leadership, right? So this should be it. We have managed to cover the entire topic of motivation. Hopefully you've understood this, all 7 theories. And this should be it. Allah Hafiz.